Let's be honest for a second. How often do we actually hear what people are saying? Today, in this explainer, we're putting on our detective hats. We're diving straight into the art of observation through the lens of professional counseling, because as it turns out, the words people say, yeah, they're usually just the tip of the iceberg.
Seriously, think about your own everyday conversations. When you ask a friend how they are and they shoot back a quick, "I'm doing great," do you genuinely notice the subtle clues they might be dropping? Or do we just miss the hidden messages entirely? A lot of the time we're so caught up just waiting for our own turn to speak that we completely gloss over the physical evidence of what a person is actually feeling right in front of us.
To really anchor this, let's look at a brilliant insight from Dr. Josiah Edang. She points out that observation is not just looking, but observing with the purpose of understanding the client's inner world. And I just love that distinction. I mean, literally anyone can look, right? But true observation, that is a deliberate, finely tuned tool. It's this active process you use to unlock the incredibly complex inner world of the person sitting across from you.
Okay, so let's dive into our detective's guide to observation. We'll be hitting 5 key areas today. First, what true observation actually is. Second, the 3VMB framework. Third, decoding those secret nonverbal signals. Fourth, the clash of congruence versus incongruence. And finally, the vital ethics and cultural contexts you absolutely have to keep in mind.
Moving right into Section 1, Apa itu pemerhatian sebenar, or what is true observation? Like we just established, there's a massive difference between just looking at someone and actively observing them.
Our ultimate goal here is reading the unstated volumes. To pull this off, you kind of have to split your attention. You've got to track the verbal behaviors, what is explicitly being said, while at the exact same time tracking the nonverbal behaviors, which is exactly how it's being said. If you're only listening to the transcript of a conversation, you're literally missing half the data. You have to read the margins.
Which brings us to Section 2, Rangka Kerja 3V dan B, the 3V and B framework. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that sounds exhausting. How on earth do I track all of that at once without my brain melting? Well, professional counselors use a highly systematic toolkit to manage it all.
Enter the 3V plus B framework. This is the bedrock of our investigation. So the first V, visual. We're talking eye contact. Are they totally avoiding your gaze? Are they staring a hole through you? The second V is vocal quality. We're ignoring the actual words for a second and focusing on the tone, the pace, the volume of their voice. The third V is verbal tracking. This one is super fascinating. Are they staying on topic, or are they constantly topic jumping to dodge a painful subject? And finally, the B. That stands for body language. Posture, facial expressions, hand gestures, the whole shebang. When you break observation down into these 4 buckets, it suddenly goes from overwhelming to incredibly focused and revealing.
Okay, on to Section 3, Isyarat Rahasia Bukan Lisan, secret nonverbal signals. This is the part where we start categorizing the actual physical evidence we're gathering. Let's walk through some of this data matrix. For facial expressions, you're not just waiting for obvious tears. You're looking for that tight, forced smile, or maybe a jaw that suddenly clenches. With body posture, are they crossing their arms defensively like a shield or leaning in super engaged? Even the way they walk tells a story. Lethargic or maybe overly aggressive. But honestly, the absolute most compelling thing to watch for? Autonomic responses. We're talking sudden sweating, flushed cheeks, or fast, shallow breathing. These are absolute gold because they are completely involuntary. Someone can rehearse their words, they can try to fake their posture, but almost nobody can control a sudden rush of blood to their face. It's the most honest evidence you'll ever get.
Section 4, Congruence melawan incongruence. Congruence versus incongruence. This right here is the climax of your observation skills. It's that critical moment where the evidence either lines up perfectly or it completely contradicts itself.
On the left, we have congruence. This is when the words and the body language are on the exact same page. A classic example, someone crying while telling a heartbreaking story. It makes sense, right? Complete harmony. But contrast that with incongruence on the right. This is a jarring mismatch. Imagine a client who's chuckling or smiling casually while describing a history of severe trauma. The words are dark, but the physical delivery is almost comedic. When you spot that kind of incongruence, alarm bells should absolutely be ringing in your head. It almost always points to a defense mechanism, deep discomfort, or a wound that needs some really delicate exploration.
So what do? Well, the counselor's action here is gentle confrontation. When you spot that mismatch, you don't just ignore it, but you also definitely don't aggressively interrogate them. You use gentle confrontation to act like a mirror. You might say something like,
Hey, I noticed you were smiling just now when you talked about that painful memory. Can we explore what you were feeling in that moment? It's all about bringing what's unstated out into the open, naturally and safely.
All right, Section 5, Etika dan Konteks Budaya, Ethics and Cultural Context. Before we all run out and start psychoanalyzing our friends, we absolutely need to set some ground rules.
The golden rule: observation has to be free from bias and heavily grounded in cultural context. You are gathering data, not playing mind reader based on your own personal baggage. And culture is huge here. Remember eye contact from our 3V framework? In some cultures, locking eyes shows honesty and engagement. But in others, prolonged eye contact with an authority figure is considered a sign of massive disrespect. If you ignore that cultural context, your observation isn't just inaccurate, it completely misses the reality of the human being sitting in front of you. To wrap this all up, just remember that every single person you interact with is like this complex, multi-volume library. By using the tools we unpacked today, really committing to deliberate observation, applying the 3V plus B framework, tracking those secret signals and hunting for incongruence, you completely change the game. You stop being a passive listener just waiting for your turn to talk, and you become a highly active, deeply empathetic reader of the human condition.
So I'll leave you with this. The very next time you ask someone how they are and they give you that standard, automatic, "I'm fine," what are you actually going to be observing? Are you going to check their eye contact, listen to the pacing of their voice? Will you spot the incongruence? Put that detective hat on, try these tools out in your very next conversation, and just see what unstated volumes you start to read. Thanks for checking out this explainer, and happy observing.